Well, if this game is any like the last three or four we've played against them, they've all gone right down to the wire. So we are expecting another tough contest from Purdue. If I looked at two factors in the losses in Big Ten play, or I should say the factors in all our losses in Big Ten play, the two that have kind of rise to the top are in wins we're holding people to 37%. In losses they're shooting 47%. In wins we're turning it over 12 times, and losses 15 times. Seems pretty simple and generic. The other one we came up with today or last night was in a lot of these games, the stat of points after turnovers has been a real key. When you turn it over, McQuaid, ball goes out of bounds, and they come down and hit a three immediately. And we're starting to realize that we've been behind in a lot of those. Duke, the other day it was 21-6 at halftime on points after turnovers. And which kind of tells us that we're not handling a turnover very well. We're not only losing the ball, but we're not responding then to coming down and making a big defensive play. And I don't know if some of it's our youth, some of it's whatever, but we got to do a better job of figuring out, letting a play go and moving on to the next play. Purdue has tremendous size, top 10 in the nation in rebound margin. They also rank, in the top of the Big Ten. I think we're second, but in assists, they're averaging almost 20 assists per game. Three-point shooting, which is I think a big plus for this team. They've always been able to get the ball inside. Now they've got three guys that are shooting threes, and I think they're a very strong three-point shooting team, ranked as one of the better ones in the nation at 40. And Swanigan is playing at a very high level. He leads the nation in double-doubles. He's taking slightly a few less threes, but shooting it much better from there. I think he's being more selective. I think he's done a heck of a job of improving his game from last year to this year. So we got our hands full, but at the same time, we have a great opportunity when you look back on what we did the second half. What do you take out of that game? You don't win halves. They don't matter. But I thought the first half, they made some shots, guys. Those of you that were there, if you watch them on film, they made some shots, and most of it is because we let them get going. We let Johnson and Blackman get going, real early off of one turnover, off a couple offensive rebound kickouts, and off of more than a couple dribble penetrations where we might have overhelped because we had to help, and kickouts. So they had some inside-out looks, but they were pretty well contested, and they made them. So hopefully we'll do a better job on that and learn from it. We had a good practice yesterday. I had a good meeting with the freshmen today for a couple hours. We're just going to keep working at it and see where it takes us. Questions?
Tom, we've heard these guys for the last couple of games talk over and over again about focus from the beginning and playing 40 minutes, and they admitting that they haven't been able to do that. Is that one of the harder things to try and? That's not like fixing the way you run a play or something. How do you get that, especially with younger guys?
Yeah, well, you get it with experience. You get it by getting some experience. It really will help if Aaron Harris plays like he did, because now you got an experienced guy doing it. You got someone to show. I mean, we went back last night and picked out our preparation for Purdue last year and take a look at how we covered certain sets. We do that. We started doing that 2 years ago, where we have a very good breakdown of how we covered those sets, both in practice and in a game. And it was just amazing, the difference in certain guys. And we laughed because Dede looked very good at it. And we knew he wasn't great at it, but he looked very good at it. But he had, those 4 seniors or 3 seniors around him that would make up for some things. So some of it's going to be experience, and some of it's going to be, just spending more time in here. I mean, more time watching film, more time seeing what you did wrong, and not letting one mistake turn into 3 mistakes. I mean, I think back to Denzel, and we sit in this room, we knew that. But, we're still not that far away. I mean, we took a team that, I don't know if you could shoot better than they shot. You can say there were some open looks. I could show you on film where of their 11 threes they made, at least 7 of them were very well contested. And they got going, though, and that's what people do. You hear players talk about getting in a zone. If you let them get in that zone. So coming ready to play at the beginning, it's been a little harder on the road than at home. And then sustaining these situations after turnovers. Our turnovers have come down in general from where they were early, but the points people are getting after the turnover is still a lot higher than it should be. And hopefully that, too, will be something we can keep harping on and see if we can get them to understand that the focus has to be there the whole time. And don't take it that this team is not as focused as other teams we've had. That's true. Take it as these players cannot maintain that like some other players, that there's more of these freshmen and then the one sophomore we got. I mean, everybody knows Matt's been struggling. It sure as hell isn't from lack of work or effort. He just been struggling. So we don't have a lot of veterans that can help them through it.
How do you, I guess, what approach do you take with them in terms of the mental side of that after making a mistake to kind of forget it and let go of it on the defense?
Well, today I brought the 4 freshmen in early just to try to show them on film. Last night, Aaron Harris and McQuaid, try to show them what I mean on film. I don't think they understand it, nor do I think a lot of other players understood it over the years. But when you can see it, it helps. You just have to have enough time to be doing that all the time, and that's hard on them, and it's not as easy as you think. But, that's where I still look back at this whole interesting year. And, we were talking about Miles before I came down. And, it's not been easy to do what he's doing. He had the first 3 weeks of the season, 4 weeks of the season, then he gets hurt. And the time in those 4 weeks, I told you a bunch of times, we've had no practice time. So we didn't get better at any of those things. And then when we had it, he was out. And so, it's going to take him a little time to get back. He's had some good games. He's had some games where he didn't play as well. But it's hard when you don't have other people. As we were watching this practice film from last year, you could, Brian Gregory said something real interesting in the film session. He says, you know what the best part was? I said, what? He goes, I didn't see your face. I won't tell you what I said to him, but you can imagine, and I didn't get where he was going with it. He says there were no coaches or assistants out there, meaning we weren't running out there between each, because Denzel was taking care of it. Costello was taking care of it, and that was an interesting comment, and that's not the player's fault. That's nobody's fault. It's just going to take a little time that I'm going to, believe me when I say I've gained more patience than I've ever had. Believe me when I say it's not enough.
Tom, when you look at Caleb Swanigan's game from where it was last year, what has he done to really morph into a more complete player? And does he become one of the poster childs for not leaving too early and coming back and letting your game develop?
Well, I think they've done a good job with him, and I think he's done a good job, and what's happened is they've changed their lineup too. They were playing with the 2 bigs last year, and now they are starting him, and they're starting Vince Edwards at the 4, and so it's not as clogged up in there. And I think Biggie has understood that, don't worry about what position you play. Just play whatever position you're playing to the fullest of your ability, and all of a sudden you can step out and hit a 3. You can put the ball on the floor, but he's a load to score in there. And I think last year people got in each other's way a little bit. So I think Matt deserves a lot of credit, along with the one thing I'll say about Biggie that I knew when I recruited him. When I first saw him, he was 8th grade, and he was over 100 pounds bigger than he is now. And he's done a great job of dropping that weight in high school. And now I think when I used to go down there and watch him, I'd go to a guy's house, he'd work out in a yard. I'd go to a gym, he'd be working out in there. He is one of the rare big guys that I think works out and works on his game as much as anybody I know. Now, I don't know if he's continuing to do that. I'm just assuming he has. But I know what he did the 3 years I recruited him. And it's phenomenal, his workout. So I think, yes, it could be a poster child for he needed to grow a little bit more in certain things. But I think he's doing a great job because they've done some things to change up their offense, and I think he's done some things to improve. He's not taking the crazy threes anymore. He's just done a better job too. So I think both parties have worked together, and that's going from freshman to sophomore.
Even with the youth and the missing practice time and all that and the injuries, is there anything you're surprised about in regards to what you've been struggling with this late in the season?
Yeah, I mean, I guess everything, because, I don't think I've been through that. So I think in some ways, I mean, we can say the youth and we can say the lack of practice time early, but then Miles has just come back too, so that's another whole change. So there's not just one thing. There's been so many different things that what I appreciate is, especially in those freshmen, most of them are working really hard. Some of them have to learn how to work harder, but all of them care. I got no issues. I had no off-the-court issues. I gingerly joked, and I don't even want to say it, but, is it easier when there are some issues, But I don't know, what I expected was not a lot different than we got. I just expected a little more consistency by now, but we just got one of our best players back a couple weeks ago, and so everybody's learning how to play with everybody all over again. And 6 weeks is just long enough, 5.5 weeks to go one way or another. So, it's new territory for them, a little bit new territory for me. And I always told you that experience is the best way to learn how to do things is when you have some experience. Well, I probably haven't done a great job with them because I haven't had experience in this area either. But not many people have. It's just one of those things this year. I mean, if Gavin and Ben are here, there's at least some experienced guys to lean on. This was a unique situation, so we're getting through it. We're getting through it. We played, I don't know how poorly we played. We had 13 turnovers or 12 turnovers in that game. We out-rebounded them, They made some shots. We made some poor plays in that first half. They made some shots. Second half, we played pretty well in a lot of different areas. That's a pretty good team. Indiana's a very good team. And this team right now, Purdue is playing better than Indiana was. But I think we're going to be a better team every day we come out, too. I really do. And we're going to have to get a lot better in these 2 days. Started out yesterday. We'll do it again today.
Tom, I'm guessing you have fantasized about Swanigan in your lineup. And I'm thinking the fans will be on him a little. They know. But
they shouldn't be. I mean, you know what? I don't know what the rest of your question is, but I got a lot better things to fantasize over than Swanigan, to be honest with you, Fred. But I have, it's been one of those things where the guy that we recruited him through and Biggie, there was never any animosity to it. It was a strange deal the whole way, but I've been a fan of his. I really have been. That's not talk, so a bulletin board. If I didn't like him, I'd say, I don't like the guy. It's pretty simple, but I guess I cut you off before
that
because I
was
was
the
thinking of
rest of my
fantasies,
question.
and
You
I was
had a-
thinking if you probably fantasize over baseball players. I got better things to fantasize over. No,
Believe it or not, I do too.
Yeah.
But that was the rest of my question. You had a fairly amicable, for
Yeah.
a guy, for the amount of time you put into recruiting him, his decision you accepted fairly amicably, didn't you?
I did, because I sort of understood it. I mean, he was, like all these kids now, he was caught into the California thing and going out there with a couple of buddies and the social media stuff that just jumped all over him in every way, shape, or form. And, I bet you, I can't really say I've asked Matt. Him and I talked about it the night he decommitted. Matt and I talked. But I'll bet you for a year before that, he didn't think he was getting them at all. And that's kind of what happens nowadays in recruiting. But I guess the good news is he's close to home. He made a decision that was best for him, and he and his people were smart enough to stay another year, because I think that is the best thing that's happened to him. He's matured. He's not worried about all the things. He doesn't seem to be affected by, I got to be a 3, a 4. I'm a basketball player, and he's improved because of one reason, maybe two. I'll give their staff credit, but he works. He is a big man that works. He works on his game. I mean, I could tell you some incredible sessions I sat and watched him by himself. And so anybody that does that, I respect if I hated him. Okay, I don't hate him, but I have great respect for people that earn their keep, and he's earned his keep.
Saying with last year's team with Matt Costello, the way he developed and you needed him to develop, does that happen if Caleb would come? And I mean, nothing against Caleb personally, but he would have been another force in that lineup, and what the steps Costello took because he had the opportunity. Does that change because of how that worked out?
I don't know. I mean, you guys are asking questions that you should go to church and ask the big fella up there. Those are questions that I couldn't answer in a million years. Put it this way, I wouldn't have, if it would have meant Matt Costello or Didi or something didn't have as good a year, I wouldn't trade those guys for the world. But who knows how we would have used him, how he would have used us. I mean, there were some struggles down there too, because they had two big guys and he was playing all over the place, and they were getting in each other's way a little bit, with all the number of guys they had. And after watching that tape I told you about earlier, I wouldn't have traded Costello and Didi for anybody, and Schilling was involved too. So I wouldn't have traded those guys for anyone. I appreciate Biggie for who he is, and I appreciate my guys. It's hard to say what would have happened. I can't say he played great against us in the tournament or anything, so maybe those guys did a better job on him. I don't know.
When you have 4 freshman starters and whatnot, and you're in a stretch like this, back-to-back home games in late January, this is exceedingly important stuff. Do you mention that, or do you just let them go play?
That's a good question. I mean, the elephant in the room. Should we talk about the elephant? I didn't mean that. Should we talk about the elephant in the room? Is the pressure getting on? Is the tournament? Is all that? Now, you guys know I'd put pressure on my mother, but I'm not going to put pressure on 4 freshmen for what they've been through. So, no, all I've been talking about lately is we have to get better to play to the level that causes you to win on a consistent basis and causes you to get better as an individual on a consistent basis. Those are the 2 things we're harping on. Do we got to cut out a little better? Does Miles got to do that? Yes, he does. Does Cassius got to keep guys in front of him a little better? Yes, he does. Does Josh have to run the lane a little bit better? Yes, he does. Does Nick have to, make sure he's not shooting those spin shots, because when he doesn't, he's very effective. Yes, he does. Are all of them making progress? But like I told you, if Kenny, Matt, and Aaron step their game up a little bit, it'll take some pressure off. These freshmen got, more on the plate than even some of the freshmen at the biggest schools. I mean, Monk played very well against us when we played Kentucky, if you remember. But the guy that, was right there changing the game was Briscoe. We said their bigs were so good, and they're playing pretty well now. Hell, our bigs played better than their bigs played in that game. That's been part of the thing. We're playing a lot of freshmen, probably in Big Ten, 23, 24 minutes and up. And they don't have a lot of guys giving them advice, so I don't need to put any pressure on them. The way I look at it is this: we're going to get better every day. I'm not saying this to convince you or any of the people outside, and I'm sure as hell not doing it to convince me. I do believe this team's getting better. I do believe we're getting better every day. I do believe nobody's quitting. I do know that I got to keep the noise away from them. So I'm going to make sure I'm not part of that noise. And that's just the nature of the beast now, as everybody says. New day, new era, grin and bear it and deal with it. So I'm going to deal with it. But one of the ways I'm dealing with it is we don't talk about those things. We're just talking about getting better. We do talk about this is a big week. And we got 2 big home games. Big week. It's a big week for our fans. It's a big week for our players. It's a big week for our staff. And that's the way we're approaching it.
With that, you talk about kind of have maybe on the defensive side having a little more short-term memory if you cough it up. I mean, with the losses that you guys have had in the last couple games, how do you, I guess, with a young group, coach them through that to let that go in the past and not dwell on it?
Well, I look at last year's team, and I don't think anybody thought we were going through the season undefeated, and we haven't done that. I don't mean to joke about it, but we could have been very good and lost at Indiana. We could have had Dede and this guy and that guy and still lost at Indiana. The Ohio State loss, I told you when we went down there, I still think they're a pretty good team. They've proven to be a much better team than they were playing. Everybody goes through these things throughout a season, but that's a pretty good team, and you can't play average and win those games. And we did, but we lost 2 games. All of a sudden our Northwestern win looks better than it was. All of a sudden you look at the Arizona game. I don't want to go all the way back to then, but I know how we played. I think we could have, should have won that game. They've become pretty good, And so I still think that there's been a lot of monkey wrenches thrown into this group. The Miles thing, even getting him off and back and getting him back on track. And, first thing he said, when I told him he was not coming back for another week, he felt he was letting everybody down. And I think he said everybody meaning the team, but I think he means the fans and everybody. I can't worry about that. I got to just help him get through that and make him understand that maybe all those things he's thinking about is causing him not to cut out somebody when he should or do this when he should. But it's harder to keep the noise out, guys, than it was 3-4 years ago. It's a lot harder to keep the noise out. I know. It's here to stay. It's where it is. That's in your world. I got a different world. And in my world, I don't think anything that creates such negative things is going to be part of my world. So I'm going to deal with my guys the way I want to deal with them, and I'm going to try to do a better job than I've done. I'm going to try to learn on the run, too. Last week I came out and did something that I got coaches calling me, veteran coaches calling me, telling me, why would you admit that you didn't do a good enough job with or didn't understand the 4 freshmen and this and that? You know what? What you see is what you get. I'll do a better job from here on out in my career. I don't know how I'll change it much. Because I still say that if Miles would have kept growing and he would have had those 5 weeks when we were practicing all the time, I think you'd see a different team. But we didn't have that, and we got to just keep moving forward. And we practiced good yesterday. We're going to practice better today, and hopefully we're going to play better tomorrow, and it's going to be enough. And if you do get a couple wins, then the confidence grows because they've earned it, not because I've given it. Then the noise dissipates, and then other things happen. And if not, the noise keeps coming. And you know me, and one thing good about me, I learn a couple of big words, but I think I enjoy being a masochist. I think I enjoy it. I enjoy it when everybody wants to throw stuff, and I enjoy the pain, and it drives me. It really does. It's funny, huh? I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I wouldn't advise you becoming one, but there's some joy to it some nights. There really is. And so I'm going to make sure my team knows that and understands it, and we'll do better.
A lot more than usual this year, it seems that you've been getting late in the clock and having to take some shots that you wouldn't. Is that something that the kids are doing, or is that something they're doing to us?
No, that's something that, as I said, I mean, that was a perfect example. So the guys start playing together, and they start figuring each other out, and then all of a sudden you throw in another guy in there, and so we've been moving guys all year, and so there's not as big of a comfort level. But that has happened. That's been one of the things brought up in the meeting. Some of it is it takes us too long to get in there. Guys walking around, not figuring out. There's never a comfort level, And now that's a very good question, because that is something that we can't get caught with as much. We've got to do a better job of getting into things quicker. And I think that'll be an area that we addressed yesterday, we addressed this morning, we'll address tonight. Hopefully we'll get a little better at that. But what's funny is we still look at all this stuff, and we just don't want to deal with the reality of guys got to learn how to play harder. I just read you stats that I'm not one of those big analytics guys, but these are basic things: 37% on the wins, 47% on the losses. Those are, maintaining effort. 4 of the games have been on the road, 3 at home. Those are where youth rear their ugly heads. We got to do a better job of that. But even though the shot clock and some offensive things, our turnovers have come down. We've gotten to the free throw line a lot more than we did early in the year. We've shot better from the free throw line than we did early in the year. We're still rebounding the ball pretty well for a team of very small people. And we're shooting 47% from the line, or from the field, and 36 from the line. I mean, those are not ridiculous numbers. We have to check better. We have to handle the turnovers and come back better, and we have to do a better job of not letting these couple of runs in a game determine the game. We have to get a little bit more, as I said, consistent. And the shot clocks and all those are part of it. I mean, to be honest with you, if we score 75 points at Indiana, we should win, I think. I think we should be good enough to win that game. Not if they hit 11 threes like they did. We can come up with a lot of different things, but there's still some basic things that never change, and that's what we got to do a better job of.
Sort of piggyback on that, Tom, you mentioned Gregory looking at the practice films from a year ago and not seeing you guys. When you see that sort of veteran collective know-how, I'm curious, the lack of that this year, is it more problematic on the offensive end or the defensive end? You may have just answered that, by the way.
I might have, and I don't have a total answer for you, but my answer is really going to bother you, because I have trouble even knowing that answer because I've never been in that position. Just haven't been in that position. We can talk about 2002. First of all, I've gotten old enough where I'm not that good where I can remember back those kind of things. And I don't know if I could find the films of those games. I did look at some stats from those games, but there were some veteran guys that were key. So it's been different. Sometimes the makeup of your team is different too. If your best player is a senior, I'll look at an Iowa, and I don't know what kind of leader he is. But if he's a good leader, they can rally him differently. I mean, some of this stuff is there's not a recipe for it, and yet it's not. Other than losing a few more games, there's been parts of it that make me appreciate a lot of things. One of them, yeah, I do appreciate those guys more. I mean, if I watch any more film of that last year's team, I'm gonna think that Bryn Forbes was Walt Frazier. I mean, the way he guarded people. I mean, it's amazing, and it gives you a perspective. But I tell you, there's nobody loafing. There's just people that are playing not knowing. And so you don't play with the same vigor. And then when you don't win and you think where you're at and people react like they do, I understand it, but it just adds more pressure. What we need is we need the place to be packed tomorrow. We need the crowd to be at its best. We got to be at our best. Everybody's got to rally. It's our team. Not my team. It's our team. I've said that about this place since I came here. We'll see if we want to do that. Everybody's got to do their job, right? Belichick's in another Super Bowl because everybody does their job. Somebody told me a great stat this morning. 2 players on that team were first-round picks, and they were traded for. You don't always need superstars. You need people that buy in, play together, and do well. And I say right now, I love my freshmen. I wouldn't trade one guy. Would I like to speed the process up? Sure. If that same group we were talking about, that you just asked me about, if Denzel was playing 30 minutes a game and Costello was playing 28 minutes a game and Bryn Forbes was playing 24 minutes a game and they were all freshmen, I think we'd be having a similar, maybe a worse conversation, if I was to be honest with you. Because I remember back some days with those guys, and do I know? I don't know. Do I have perspective on it? Look, if somebody wants to rip me for that, God bless you, or God bless them, So I got to do a better job. It starts at the top. I got to manage these guys better. I got to push them better. I got to pull them better. I got to understand them better. And God only knows we're meeting on it. We're talking about it. We're trying to do it. But we're 4-3 and 12-8. I know that's not Michigan State standards. Nothing has been Michigan State standards this year. Not what our record is, not who we've played even. Definitely not the players we've played and the experience they've had. Nothing's been of the standards of this program. So we're braving a new trail, and we're going to be better in the long run. And to me, the long run is the next couple of weeks. And that's why it is an important week. Sure, it's an important week. Is it life or death? Number one, I wouldn't put that on them. Number two, I don't believe it. This isn't football. That's why it's not. When I say it isn't football, I meant, you can still do incredible things on how you play. It's not all determined just by your record in the middle of the year. And I guess maybe there's omens in here. I watched the Jim Valvano thing last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, and they weren't very good that year. They won a national championship, Listen, we're not where we need to be, and I should be held accountable for that. And you'll never hold me as accountable to it as I hold myself accountable to it. And I don't worry about you guys. There's a lot of noise out there. That's the white elephant in the room. You know what? You guys, I have respect for. Some of those I don't. But when the noise gets to my players, then there's a fist fight. I can get to my players all I want. When somebody else who's not there with me on a daily basis, not there with me at 12 o'clock at night, not there with me at 7 in the morning at their meetings, they got no right to make any noise to my player. They want to make it to me, they can make it to me. But be damn careful who you make it to. Because they'll want me to be on a player. If he's not playing well enough, it'll never happen if I think somebody else is on him harder than I am. These guys have worked their tail off. They've been in a position that you'll never, ever understand. Because I'm the head coach, and I don't understand it. And I admitted that. And I'm working on it. I'm working on it with other coaches. I like my team a lot. I don't like the way we played. I don't like the consistency we've played with. I don't like that we haven't played with the Michigan State toughness that you have to play with. Now, other than maybe a Mateen Cleaves, maybe a Draymond, didn't play that much though as a freshman, 13 minutes a game. It wouldn't have been Denzel. It wouldn't have been a Kalen Lucas. It wouldn't have been even a Gary Harris. It wouldn't have been Steve Smith his freshman year. I can't think of many that come in. And be careful if you're going to compare us to certain other programs, because everybody doesn't have the same freshmen. Everybody doesn't have the same people. So my word to you, my second State of the Union would be, we are working morning, noon, and night at getting better. We got a good team. I don't have anybody in trouble. I don't have any problems. I just have the problem of not winning enough games and not getting players better fast enough. But they are working on it. We are working on it. I will continue to do that. And rest assured that somewhere this masochistic human being sitting in front of you believes that I'm going to have the last laugh. And it's not going to be funny. But we're going to get better. And we have gotten better. You look at some of those stats, and that's what you got to do. You got to take what you're bad at, and you got to improve on it. Didn't get to the free throw line. We're getting there 20 times a game. We've improved on it. Weren't very good free throw shooting team. And we've improved by 10, 12 percentage points with a long ways to go. We're improving on it. Our defense, it's harder to improve than 37%. We were leading the league. Okay? So, we've had some falters. Some of it is how to handle the road. Some of it is how to handle mixing guys back in to the group. You're right. I can't compare this to another team I've had because I've never had this. And I don't mean just with young guys. I mean with the injuries, the different things that have happened. So if I give up on a team, I'll tell you. But it probably ain't going to happen in your lifetime. And that means you're younger than I am, so most of you. So it's probably not going to happen in my lifetime. And, you guys watch practice. I never close it. You see what you see. Today will be a fun practice. You should be there because we're going to get after it a little more and more and more. We're going to push the envelope a little more and more and more. Not to put pressure on, to try to hold them accountable, because now we think they understand and see different things. And we've been doing it all year, but we're going to do it at another level. And then if that doesn't work, we're going to do it at another level. But it's going to work. Because the one thing I do know is freshmen have gotten better. Players have gotten better just about every year here. But there's usually that thing he said was funny because he kind of ripped me. I didn't have to look at your ugly face out there pumping your fist. I said, what are you talking about? We went back and watched it. And all of a sudden I got Denzel pumping his fist at Didi. And I said, oh, I see what you mean. And that doesn't mean anything bad about our seniors. It just means that some guys can take certain roles. And to be honest with you, Costello was right behind him, and Forbes was right behind him, and Kobe was running the scout team, and it was easier. So the combination of losing all them and getting all freshmen and then having to play them, that's not a healthy combination for any program. We are 12-8, fighting our way through it. We are played better basketball, a lot of good basketball in stretches, and some poor basketball that, as you say, shot clock time, very good. That should be something that someone should say, what are you doing? People going around us, I don't care if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, you got to be able to guard people. Those things, missing assignments, those things you got to get better at. But learning how to deal with all the things these guys have to deal with, guys, is a little more difficult. And then to try to keep them away from the noise that's been new too. Hell, I didn't. You think I worried about the internet when Cleves was here? Huh? I didn't worry about the internet. I barely worried about cell phones. I had a buddy that came in this week. Son plays on our hockey team. Jerry Rosberg is special teams coach for Baltimore, and he was telling me a story about Ray Lewis and what he said in the locker room the year he retired about cell phones and about focusing in on the job. And I might be done after this year, but if you remember, that team wasn't a Super Bowl team, and they won it, And I won't get into everything he told me, but made me nervous, and that was 5 years ago, and I wasn't even there 4 years ago. So this kid's got a lot of things to deal with. We're dealing with them. I don't know how they were when you met with them, made my press conference a half hour later so we could let you meet with them. I don't know whose great idea that was. Is that yours, Matt? Huh? Oh. Anyway, we always have players meet. Oh. Are the guys coming to practice today, or is that closed today because of that? Okay. See, I don't even know because I don't even care. And, you guys, I could care less if you're there at practice or if you're not. I don't mean that insultingly, but we're not putting in the backdoor lob off something else that I don't want anybody to see. It's not that big of a deal to me. So enjoy it, understand it, try to deal with it. When you got questions, hit me with them. Try to have the players, you got good guys that you're covering. They're good. They're good guys, and they'll be fun. Thanks.
He got it.